Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth, also known as the Continuum Chronicles, as in the space time continuum, which is incredibly relevant to what we are talking about today, which on the surface level is Pearl Harbor. But more than that, we're going to be talking a lot about time travel. In 1996, when I was in college, the character that I played the most is the guy that we often on this channel have in the past referred to as Dagda, Beowulf, King Arthur, and Oberon. And you may know him from some other adventures on this channel as Superman Red. Back when he was known as Superboy Red, he was a member of the Legion of Superheroes in the 30th century. And as we mentioned in earlier videos, he had access to their historic records. So in 1996, a question came up, which was, would Red allow Pearl Harbor to even take place? Would he just allow all those men to lose their lives? I didn't think that he would, but some of our players, and by the way, we had a ton of players back then, um, dozens of college students who were stuck on campus without a car in the middle of the big 1990s comic book boom. They loved that I was running a game. It was one of the few things they could do. But I digress. At any rate, so some of those players brought up excellent points. Like if you save people on that day, do you create a new timeline where then you are keeping tons of people from ever being born, which some of those players thought of as a form of death? Others disagreed. And, anyways, it was this whole big thing. Finally, a guy named Jeremy came up with a great idea, which was to have Red try to change time, but fail. That way, he's not willingly allowing innocent bystanders to come to harm, but at the same time, he doesn't prevent anyone from being born either. So it seemed like a win-win. But here's the thing. In DC Heroes, time travel is just another power. Anybody can take it. Making a new hero who's a time traveler is super easy, barely an inconvenience. For that matter, anyone with sorcery can just substitute their sorcery for time travel whenever they want. Same goes for Omnipower, which, by the way, is a power that every single Green Lantern ring has. So while Big Red failed to prevent Pearl Harbor from going down, over the years, time and time again, dozens of superheroes have decided to go back to Pearl Harbor to help him, while others go back to stop him. So as a result, we've created two stable parallel timelines. One where Red fails, giving us what is more or less the modern Marvel and DC stuff that you're used to, and an alternate timeline where Red wins, then goes to Japan where he pulls a Riddick, where you keep what you kill. Red becomes Emperor of Japan in that timeline. And after he conquers that country, which by the way, half of our players hated and the other half thought it was awesome, he does the same thing to Germany. And then he does the same thing to Italy. And then in the 1950s, he takes out the USSR. And slowly but surely, over the following decades, he unites the world, which to some people sounds evil. But the way we played it back in the 90s was what my old philosophy professors would refer to as a benevolent dictatorship. So the downside is like there's no voting, right? Because he's always emperor. But this Terran Empire cured every disease, ended poverty, etc. So it's like a utopia on that level. Um, and that confused a lot of people. When we came up with this, we were just trying to do something different, something that wasn't the same old thing. We'd grown up on an evil empire from Star Wars, as well as various evil empires in Star Trek. So we thought it would be cool to try to make a good empire for a change. But a lot of players would just hear the term and thought it was bad. So they would go back to Pearl Harbor to fight Red and thwart him then and there. Other players thought the Terran Empire was really cool. So then they would go back in time and fight the first group of player characters. So it was PvP galore. It was kind of like a light switch, and the players were like little kids fighting over which direction to flip it. So after years of this, they finally established that both timelines exist. DC Heroes has time travel, which allows you to go from the modern day to the past, or you can go forwards to the future, but it's like a straight line back and forth, right? And it has dimension travel, but that's for completely other realms, right? It had nothing for going from one timeline to another. So as the game master, I invented a power for that. In DC Comics at one point, this was referred to as hypertime. So we called this new power hypertime travel. And now for the first time, a character like, say, Captain America could now travel to the Terran Empire where he could hang out with that world's version of Steve Rogers, who was Captain Universe, recipient of the Unipower. But all of this started with Pearl Harbor, which we refer to as the prime nexus, the point where these two worlds diverge. So, all that said, it all starts with Wonder Woman. Steve Trevor crashed in the ocean, washed up on Paradise Island. The Amazons held a contest to determine a champion. Diana won. She became their Wonder Woman and flew Steve Trevor to Washington, D.C. in her invisible plane. While Steve was rushed to a hospital for further treatment, Wonder Woman told the men in Washington that Steve had learned that Pearl Harbor was going to be attacked on December 7th, 1941, which at this point in the timeline is right around the corner. But we said that in 1941, men in Washington, D.C. were basically sexist to her, right? Didn't take her seriously, etc. But like we said earlier in this video, Superman Red has knowledge of the future from his time in the Legion of Superheroes, right? And in terms of his motivation, he wants to help people. Furthermore, he and Diana used to be romantically involved. She was the one who broke it off with him. And he has always wanted back in her good graces. And as we have now well established on this channel, Red is the one guy who knows everybody. You may have noticed that in almost every single adventure, he made an appearance. So he's got connections, right? And when nobody else would help Diana, he did. Which brings us to the main event. It is now the early hours of December 7th, 1941. And when the sun rises over Hawaii, we see all the heroes we've mentioned on this channel so far. All of them. Aquaman, the Atom, the Autobots, Batman, Black Canary, Black Condor, Black Hawk, Blue Beetle, Bucky, Bullet Girl, Bullet Man, Captain America, Captain Marvel Jr., Congo Bill, the Crimson Avenger, Dick Tracy, Doc Savage, Dr. Fate, Dr. Midnight, Doctor Who, Doll Girl, Doll Man, Elastigirl, the Eternals, Firebrand, the Flash, Flash Gordon, Green Arrow, Green Hornet, Green Lantern, Hawk Girl, Hawkman, Hourman, Indiana Jones, Johnny Quick, Johnny Thunder, K9, Crypto, Lady Blackhawk, Logan, Manhunter, Mary Marvel, Mary Poppins, Max Mercury, Miss America, Mr. Incredible, Namor, the Owl, the Phantom, Plastic Man, Popeye, Queen Aura, the Ray, Red Tornado, Robin, the Rocketeer, the Sandman, Sandy the Golden Boy, Sargon the Sorcerer, the Shadow, Shining Knight, the Spectre, Speedy, the Spirit, Starman, Star Spangled Kid, Stripesy, Superman, Tarantula, Tarzan, Tex Thompson, Tigress, Uncle Sam, Vigilante, Wildfire, William Lamport, X-13, Yiz the Thunderbolt, Zatara, and even the new Zorro. You name it, if they exist, they're here. So when the planes come flying in, Green Lantern catches some of them in a net, and Namor flies up, pulls a pilot out, and lets him drop, then aims the plane back at the ships that are attacking. The Japanese unleash an original character we created for this adventure, who we named Mount Fuji, who is literally as big as his namesake. His feet are on the ocean floor and his head is in the clouds. He's shaped sort of like Juggernaut, and tons of superheroes pile on him, including Superman Red, which is when the time travelers begin to appear. Guys like Kang the Conqueror arrive, and then those guys are attacked by more time travelers like Bishop and Cable. From the vantage point of the characters who are native to 1941, each time traveler is quote unquote one of many possible futures. That means that not every time traveler is from the same timeline. So you even get guys fighting their counterparts. One time traveler is named Per Degaton, and he has a German time machine shaped like a bell called Die Glock. Per Degaton was sent by the leader of Germany to make sure everything went as planned today, and it did not. So, Per Degaton vanishes in his time machine only to return with a villain named Wotan. And all through this whole event, Wotan gets nothing but critical success after critical success, and he actually managed to kill the first Dr. Fate. In the end, the Spectre defeats Wotan, who retreats to substitute sorcery for regeneration, and Dr. Fate's wife puts on the helmet of Naboo, and she becomes our second Dr. Fate. When all is said and done, there are the two timelines. In the timeline we will not be exploring on this channel, the heroes won. Then they went after the Axis powers, and in that timeline, the Terran Empire was born. But like I say, that is not the focus of this channel. In this timeline, the heroes lose. Try as they may, too many time-traveling villains showed up, and history went the way history went in the real world. The United States enters World War II. Which brings us to our epilogue. On December 8th of 1941, the United States declares war on Japan, and that same day, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt drafts every single superhero there is, thus creating the All-Star Squadron. From now until the end of World War II, every single superhero in the world is on the same team. Superman Red is ordered to go to Ireland and wait for his partner to show up. So that night, at Callahan's pub in County Cork, Wonder Woman shows up, disguised as Diana Prince. Superman Red doesn't recognize her at first, so he treats it a little like a first date. And he ends up reminding Diana why she fell in love with him to begin with all those years ago. One thing that she loves about Red is that he's into her even when she's disguised as Diana Prince. Contrast that with everybody else, including Steve Trevor, by the way, calls her names like Four Eyes and Ugly and other similar insults. So Wonder Woman and Superman Red spend the night together in each other's arms, laying out under the stars, rekindling an old flame. And the next day, they are sent to the outskirts of German territory where a supervillain named Brain Drain, aka Werner Schmidt, has brought several aliens under his control and convinced them that they are Teutonic gods, namely Donner, Logue, Fro, and Brunhilde. This new supposed god of thunder, Donner, uses lightning on Wonder Woman. She tries to block with her bracelets. They conduct electricity, so she's knocked out. Then the 5 villains gang up on Superman Red and actually win. Superman Red is taken to Berlin, where he is brought before Uberfrau, who is an evil clone of Kara Zor-El, aka Supergirl, that was created by Black Kryptonite. As always, Superman Red has the Valentino effect. So Uberfrau falls madly in love with him. Since she looks like a dominatrix version of Power Girl, Superman Red can think of worse fates. But she takes his ex-kryptonite, which is the source of his powers. So now he's in trouble. And worse yet, the Germans now have the ability to make supermen of their own. But that's a story for another day. My players enjoyed playing the Pearl Harbor adventures so much that to this day, they keep coming back for more. I hope that you enjoyed this video a fraction as much as they like doing this. If so, as always, please smash that like button. Make sure you're still subscribed because YouTube loves to unsubscribe people. Ring the bell so you know when I'm uploading stuff like this. And as always, be sure to leave us a comment because that really helps out with the YouTube algorithm. I hope that you guys have a great week, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.